On behalf of EuroCham, I would like to welcome you to another webinar of EuroCham with the theme of Manufacturing Shift from China Continued. Are Vietnam's industrial parks and logistics attractive enough? Since 2018, a number of multinationals have already taken steps to expand supply chains in other countries in order to avoid new tariffs on goods exported from China to the United States. And this year, 2020, more are set to follow up and to switch in the end for alternative markets for production to the serious impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. Among many Southeast Asia countries, Vietnam has attracted the majority of those who want to diversify their manufacturing portfolio outside China, thanks to its relatively developed infrastructure and proximity to China. Following our first webinar early this month on this real hot topic, with so many requests from our members, EuroCham is honored to welcome you to continue join us at this event with more focus on the manufacturing opportunities of Vietnam and the industrial and logistic industries. Today, we are happy to have our guest speaker, Mr. Paul Tonks, Director, Logistic and Industrial Service of Cushman & Wakefield, and Ms. Shirakawa Satoko, Director, International Business Advisory from Kizuna GV Corporation, to share with us insights about these topics. We'll talk about the overview of Vietnam's FDI 2020 and the outlook of 2021 with the trend of moving out of China by MNCs. Also, we are going to talk about overview of Vietnam's industrial parks, infrastructure, logistics, pros and cons of Vietnam industrial real estate compared with another regional peers and Southeast Asia countries. And the last, the development of e-commerce in Vietnam and its impacts on manufacturing sector, human resource and solutions for quick, easy and efficient production deployment in Vietnam. Specific case study of European business investment also in Vietnam. Before I give our microphone to our speakers, I would like to send our thank you to Kizuna GV Corporation and NES BlueScope Vietnam for supporting us in organizing this webinar. A short introduction of Kizuna. Kizuna is the pioneer in service factory solution in Vietnam, bringing investors an effective and secure production environment, helping enterprise succeed sustainability. With a chain of rebuilt service factory complex, Kizuna not only provides ready-built factories with optimal design and construction in sync with industrial parks technical infrastructure system, but also brings to customers a system of shared utilities and comprehensive ecosystem of supporting service. Now I'm going to do a short introduction of NES BlueScope Vietnam, that is Australian steel solution expert. BlueScope Lysac is the Australian expert in steel solution with over 165 years experience. Lysac products meet all specification requirements while ensuring the comfortable and energy-saving workspace at an efficient return on investment. Lysac focuses strength in the three main fields: setting up new standards for industrial plants with roofing and walling solutions, contributing to the development of high-tech agriculture with Lysac AgriShed solution, and modernizing urban areas through a number of skyscrapers with its unique solution of Bondec 2. Now, I would like to show you a very short video of BlueScope for our reference. I will ask our team from EuroCham to share our.
Mọi công trình vĩ đại đều khởi đầu từ một nền móng đầu tiên với Lysac. Nền móng ấy được tạo lập từ năm 1897 tại Úc. Lysac, chuyên gia toàn cầu, cung cấp các giải pháp ưu việt nhất trong lĩnh vực xây dựng, vượt trội so với mọi thương hiệu khác ở Việt Nam với 4 lợi thế cạnh tranh. Lysac tự hào kế thừa những di sản và lịch sử lâu đời tại Úc. Chúng tôi là doanh nghiệp đầu tiên mang đến thị trường Việt Nam công nghệ tấm lợp mái không dùng lít clip lock và tấm sàn liên hợp Bodex 2 với những ưu điểm vượt trội. Đồng thời, Lai-Sat kết hợp với các đơn vị cung cấp thiết bị thương hiệu quốc tế để đưa ra giải pháp chuồng trại trọn gói chất lượng cao, đáp ứng nhu cầu ngày càng khắt khe về chất lượng nông nghiệp. Dẫn đầu về các tính năng như chống gió bốc, tăng cường độ chính xác và được kiểm duyệt trong phòng thí nghiệm tại Úc, Lai-Sat đã và đang tạo ra những sản phẩm vượt trội về mọi mặt và đáp ứng mọi nhu cầu công trình.
Lai-Sat, there is no equivalent.
Okay, thank you very much to have your time to watch our video. I would like to give the microphone to Mr. Paul Tonks. Paul, are you ready to start your presentation?
Yes, good morning, Sergio. Sorry. Yeah, I'm ready. Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Tonks, as introduced, working for Cushman & Wakefield and Logistic and Industrial Real Estate Services. Cushman & Wakefield is a commercial real estate consultant and advisor, and was recently also nominated as World's Top Commercial Real Estate Advisor by Euromoney's Real Estate Survey. So that's nice. I will start with the FDI of 2020 on a high level and a little bit of outlook, and then dive into the industrial and logistic real estate. Let's see. Okay, I can. Sorry. Okay, here we are. Okay. Some key stats of Vietnam's economy, zooming in on, of course, FDI and GDP. First, the GDP recently by ADB forecast was adjusted to 1.8%, which is lower than before, but still much higher than our peers in Southeast Asia that are seeing more like -5 to -8% in negative growth. GDP FDI is now at 21 billion, and about 46% of that is invested in manufacturing, a little bit less than before, and we see a bit more into real estate, which is indicating for a future trend in 2021 as well. You see the biggest investors are now from Singapore, Korea, China, and Japan, followed by Thailand, and then of course all the others. In the orange you see the green, you see the real estate. The orange is the energy, which is also including the in FDI project in Bạc Liêu, the LNG power plant. So talking about the outlook for 2021, I think that, you know, considering 2019 was one of our best years ever, pandemic in this case also can be for the future growth of our economy, driven by both manufacturing and likely also hospitality, proven that we have well managed this pandemic, and that would highly affect the development of hospitality as well. So that means that I see for next year continuing shift from China, obviously, and also what we now have, even a production capacity problem, so expansion of existing projects. There will be a lot more investment in terms of real estate in industrial and logistic coming in as well. Most likely more development also of data center, relatively new in terms of foreign investment, but it will come. It's on our doorstep. And the other one, which will be touched later as well, might be more development of cold storage, which is in APAC actually kind of booming at the moment, or potentially booming, and Vietnam actually the same, even though it is underdeveloped and would help to lower the cost of logistics as well eventually. So here a little bit of our manufacturing output. What you can see is a strong bouncing back of our PMI in the last few months. It bounced back completely from the dip that we had in April from 32 back to 51, which is a similar movement as we've seen in China. And it basically ranks our economy in terms of bounce back ability, which is important for manufacturers to decide to make a move or not, quite well, especially. Okay. The industrial market overview. So we have an advantage in Vietnam with a very good infrastructure and ecosystem of industrial parks. Currently, we have about 261 operational of 336 industrial parks. That is also unique. These are concentrated mostly in Ho Chi Minh Greater Area, Hanoi Greater Area, and of course the central. Recently, this weekend in Bình Định, BKMX VSRP inaugurated their 14-hectare complex, which was one of the newest developments. This is also marking a trend in development in Tier 2 regions, development of the Central Coast in economic zones, which offers great opportunities for lower cost for manufacturers that are struggling to find these locations that, as you can see, the occupancy is quite high, and especially around the cities, Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi, much higher, 90%. And of course, the cost of land will also be much higher. And sometimes there will be a struggle to find skilled labor. And this is something that in the Central Coast, the costs are lower, the infrastructure is coming up very rapidly, especially connections, as you can see, towards the Central Coast, and also the border gates in Quang Ninh developing rapidly. And I expect also border gates towards Cambodia and Bình Định towards Laos will be the future for pioneers, and also even for logistic development that is still very low in terms of the standard now, and that can still cause some higher cost that have to be offset. So between the north and the south, there is a difference that you can see that the north is really starting to attract a lot of electronics. I mean, Vietnam is becoming a very important hub for electronic export. The north is becoming a magnet, especially between Bac Ninh and Hai Phong. In the south, we have slightly more, let's say, high-tech industry, a bit more FMG and food processing industry, and that would be the bigger difference. In terms of the occupancy and the land price, the north is still slightly lower and catching up rapidly, especially considering a strong link with China and connection with China, that also the wave from Chinese, the wave of manufacturing moving from China is considering the north first, when they see also the infrastructure there has been developed and is at par, and in the south we are starting to see more investment there, and that's well needed for our manufacturing growth. So some of the drivers that you can see in Vietnam that help the development of our manufacturing is, of course, our population. We have, we are the fourth largest country in the world in terms of population. A very young, tech-savvy labor market, still cost-effective. However, productivity is maybe an issue. Skilled labor is something that we have to develop next. Very progressive domestic policies. We recently have some new ones installed. We have, luckily, the degree on the trade facilitation between for Europe-Vietnam trade agreement. And also a resolution for the development of supporting industries. Both are very important. Global integration is very strong with all the free trade agreements as well. The landscape in Vietnam in the industrial parks. This is the south, where you can see the pipeline and occupancy and pricing. I want to zoom to the next, where you can see Quang Ninh compared to Bình Dương, still, let's say, a big amount of land leasable available. So lower occupancy, lower rental costs, and still quite a nice pipeline in the development versus Binzung, which is quite well occupied, also very popular, higher rent, and less of a pipeline in the future. So we move to pros and cons, and of course the rise of ASEAN as a manufacturing hub, where you can see that that Vietnam is scoring quite well in terms of the industrial land costs and a minimum wage compared to our peers. Okay. So the pros and cons, again, we are seeing the impact of e-commerce and a lot of potential for biomedical in Vietnam. And we're starting to see that potential for Industry 4.0. And of course, a new wave of industrial parks that will have the high-tech and science and technology and eco-industrial parks. Here you can see the importance of cost on manufacturing. Sorry. So you see here in the lower echelons, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, cheaper labor, cheap rent, and the reason for manufacturers to move to these areas from China, where you can see that Beijing and Shanghai are moving towards the upper echelons as well. The drivers for real estate investment in Vietnam, or in general, where people look for when they need to find a new location, is first of all is the quality of infrastructure, which in Vietnam is increasing rapidly. It's one of the countries that invest the most in infrastructure, but still a lot is needed. Of course, consumer demand, which is growing very rapidly in Vietnam, is a positive. Availability of skilled workforce is a very essential one, especially when we want to develop a more value-added economy. And in this case, the workforce, the skilled workforce need more development, need more investment is an important point. And the regulations to discourage development that are recently coming in place, like the new law on PPP, the infrastructure, the five components infrastructure plan of the government, that also helps it in. Tax incentives, also important, and not to mention even the quality of schools and the schools in the neighborhood. This is a slide that shows the manufacturing risk index. This is an index that is produced by Cushman & Wakefield annually. It's weighing for different. It's weighing risk. It's weighing cost. It's weighing conditions, and it's now weighing also bounce back ability. And this year, we were lucky, or we had the good news that Vietnam ranked secondly in terms of cost after China. And this spotlight is exactly what we need to use for our further in our development of the industrial and logistics sector. Having the global spotlight on us, being a cost-effective nation, is what helps us to use the pandemic in this case as a catalyst for further development. In terms of the bounce back ability, I think that special mention, if this was done later, I think Vietnam should have scored even higher, even though we have limited capacity to deploy relief packages. I think that the inflation was curbed well. There was a lot of good decisions made. I think even pushing forward with infrastructure development, such as now launching very soon finally the new airport in Vietnam, in the south of Vietnam, in Long Thanh. So it was basically, it was already attractive, and it proven also that this risk for manufacturing can be managed well in Vietnam. So some of the, let's say, challenges in Vietnam.
Xuống Dũng đâu không? Chú đi đâu rồi? Em thấy xuống không?
Currently, seeing is that challenges, low productivity levels, and sometimes shortage of skilled labor, the dependency of foreign investment and trade, increases of the minimum wage, so costs can be a common issue. Still, logistic costs is one of the highest in the Asian region, which can be offset by more development of infrastructure. And rapidly increasing occupancy costs near city locations. These are challenges, but also solutions are coming in place, like the development of the tier 2 region in coastal areas and border regions. This is a snapshot of the logistic real estate market and logistic market as the contribution to the GDP in 2019. Four main categories of the real estate of logistic in terms of warehousing. So the general, the bonded warehouse and container freight station, the distribution centers, and then the special is called storage. Cold storage has always a more premium on the rent in terms of services. And there is the specials could be chemical warehousing and GSP or pharma warehousing. As you can see, we had about 3 million of square meters distribution centers in Vietnam in 2018, which is estimated by Stock Plus. This will grow tremendously in the coming years. Some idea about the build quality of warehousing, which is also seeing a big transformation, which is caused by the e-commerce effect. That is the most disruptive in this field. So you have the traditional, the older ones, and they don't have all the specs. They don't work too well, but good for now in terms of rental rate. A grade B, often there is not a sufficient firefighting system, not always dock levelers, limited yards. Grade A now, with a clear height, still okay, floor load still okay, sometimes vertical, you see with the gargle lift, with dock levelers, etc. And then the grade A for the future, which will mean also likely more multi-story facilities, especially surrounding the metropolitan areas. Better grids, higher clear height or clearance, more spec built in the end. This is a trend we'll see next year to have more development and more investment in this sector and this type of real estate. In terms of the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities, a lot of opportunities and some threats. For logistic and even also industrial, the strength obviously is our long-term strong economic growth rate, which, a trending GDP growth quite well up to 2019, our record year. Significant FDI, an important electronic exporter, which is also having its impact on logistics. Geographical location is ideal. We are 5 hours flight from half the world's population. Also one of the important growth markets for e-commerce and the impact of e-commerce. And managing the pandemic definitely put a spotlight on Vietnam as one of the strengths. The weaknesses are the underdeveloped infrastructure, which is coming, uncompetitive fuel cost, still a low contribution to renewable energy. Our supporting industries are causing a problem at the moment, but hopefully with more trade facilitation that can be solved. And of course, yes, decreasing vacancies near the CBDs and metropolitan areas, that causes a problem, that causes constraints. It drives the price up and it makes it not feasible anymore to develop logistics and or industrial. unless multi-story, and even that has its limits. Then the opportunities is our infrastructure planning, the equitization of state-owned enterprises, and development of SMEs, important for economy, and stimulation of startups. For that matter, also the management of the state-owned companies, now centralized, could also be an opportunity for small and medium-sized enterprises to have a better work cooperation with governments and state-owned units. Industry 4.0 and smart logistics is definitely one of the opportunities for Vietnam. Adoption is still low, but people are very eager. And even though the cost you have here low, we need to move into this direction because not all the jobs are that interesting to add. We can see the new frontier. Sorry. Oh. My apologies. I want to move my. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. New frontier regions for logistics I put in as well. I linked that to the tier 2 regions like just mentioned in Bình Định or in Quang Ninh, where manufacturing is going to start. Logistic development is still very low and immature, and these could be opportunities as well to follow these, let's say, trade zones and border gates, and like the east-west corridor between Thailand and Vietnam, and there I mentioned as well the development of the third port in the central, which could be Da Nang for more value added, and for export and value added manufacturing of agriculture coming even from Laos and Cambodia. It could be Bình Định or elsewhere in the central. I expect also more opportunities and development of eco-industrial parks, high-tech and science and technology parks. Often these are also closer to the city, value added in manufacturers and advanced manufacturing. They can afford slightly higher rental costs as well, often also seen in multi-story buildings. And then, of course, the threats. The last mile delivery is a complicated problem to solve in Vietnam. There's limited land, high cost, and limited space available. That will probably drive, to different innovations, maybe mobile, maybe a blend of that all. We'll see, of course, an increasing labor cost, and that means we have to definitely move up the value chain, also develop ourselves and education to be able to create jobs for high value labor and basically justify this labor cost. Dated infrastructure, with that I mean we don't see much intermodal, for example. We have lots of waterways. These are basically free of charge, much cheaper than road. Now everything is basically heavily relying on the road, which is 4 times cheaper in terms of trucking, more expensive relatively than trucking. If we can develop more infrastructure that also connects to waterways, airways, and railways, that would be something that could offset this threat. And reshoring is the trend of manufacturing moving basically everything back instead of the offshoring trend that started years ago and where China was very successful. Reshoring is the opposite. What we see in terms of reshoring is not directly a threat for Vietnam. At the moment, we would actually see that some of the OEMs moving to Vietnam because of the conditions that are favorable at this moment also force our supply chain to move to Vietnam. But reshoring could be a threat when we are not focusing on developing the supporting industries and supply chain, investing in that, and also with the underlying policies that are now coming into place. Hopefully next year we'll see more impact and effect of that. So how will the rise of e-commerce affect manufacturing opportunities in Vietnam? Well, at first, the e-commerce in Vietnam is one of the fastest growing markets in this region, second after China as well. You see it's a huge of growth, and it is quite disruptive also in terms of real estate. They grow fast. E-commerce generally works with campaigns, which also means that they need a lot of labor in a very short period of time. And then, of course, hopefully the campaign is successful. So in terms of impact on manufacturing here, it means that manufacturing can supply a lot of products to the e-commerce sector that is growing here. The e-commerce propensity in Vietnam didn't have much impact from the current pandemic because we were managed too well, too short, and therefore that didn't really change much. However, the rest of the world moved more and more to e-commerce, online and e-tailing, especially contactless. And that has also its impact and positive impact for Vietnam. What we see is now a lot more people across the globe are ordering everything online. A lot of these products, essential goods, are also sourced in China and now more and more to Vietnam. So these orders are slowly moving to Vietnam, which causing a certain production capacity problem now, but this will be solved in the coming months and next year by more expansion and of course more manufacturing setting up in Vietnam. And this means that the e-commerce has a positive impact on manufacturing growth in Vietnam towards export. Inside Vietnam, it will drive the logistic real estate sector. It will set up, especially due to the constraints in last mile, larger fulfillment centers, and these will keep growing and take position first around the main cities and then slowly to the tier 2 cities, to the tier 3 cities. So here's still a lot of development, and e-commerce will also likely be considering their models. One of the first to adopt more automated solutions and robotics and autonomous solutions, especially to absorb their demand, short-term demand of labor during campaigns, and offsetting that risk in case of a campaign not succeeding well. Because then with the robotics and automation, these jobs can easily be replaced. Also, these jobs are not attractive, mostly repetitive, so it's very difficult to find people more and more, increasingly more than before. Some of the stats of e-commerce in Vietnam, currently about ranking the second in terms of growth, about 10 billion is market size, a very high annual growth, and of course some of the popular e-commerce sites, still Facebook ranking very high, Shopee, Tiki, and Lazada following that. So the impact on manufacturing, definitely, I expect e-commerce to lead also more of the 4.0 industrial revolution. It will have its impact on infrastructure, faster, smarter, more intermodal. It will help to, it will help the policies of it will help to develop more policies, and it will change the way we look at logistic real estate. As you can see, fully automated warehousing will likely start with the e-commerce sector. In Vietnam, you can see the current impact on the real estate that e-commerce players, typically need 2 to 3 times more warehouse as the traditional retail. There's still a limited supply of warehouse in Vietnam, and a huge gap that can be developed by the incoming developers. And usually the rental for e-commerce for grade A versus traditional will be a different size. So here you see them compared, traditional and grade A. Yeah, it is definitely one of the drivers of the logistic real estate also in Vietnam. And this is where I conclude my presentation so far, and I will hand it over to Ms. Satoko Kizuna that will inform you more about the potential of the ready-built factory.
Thank you very much, Paul. I will give the microphone to Ms. Satoko, the Director International Business Advisory from Kizuna GV Corporation. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Satoko from Kizuna JV Corporation. I'm here today to introduce about the solution for FDI, who is considering to shift from China. Firstly, I want to make a quick introduction about our company. We are Kizuna JV Corporation. We are established in 2012. The reason why we have a Japanese company name is because we are mainly focused on the Japanese market in the initial stage. And also the meaning of Kizuna is a bond of the relationship, which match with our corporate philosophy. Yeah, but actually we are 100% Vietnamese company. So right now we have a 4 project Eco Factory, which is located in Ho Chi Minh City and already 100% occupied. The Kizuna 1, 2, 3, which is located in Long An province. So today I mainly talk about Kizuna. So our founder, Mr. Duong Ho Yung, he has 40 years experience in industrial real estate field. So using his abundant experience and knowledge, he established Kizuna JV Corporation. So our project Kizuna 1, 2, 3, almost 100% occupied except Kizuna 3 expansion project because it started in 2019. So 90% of our customer is FDI. So let's see our project together with investment trend. Kizuna 1 was established in 2012. At that time, we had an investment boom from Japan, especially for the garment industry, to relocate from China to Vietnam. So that's the reason why our Japanese customers, 64% of our customer in Kizuna 1 is Japanese. Other FDI, Korean, South Africa, Australia, USA, and Sweden. The Sweden, Baker Heating, there's a tenant of Kizuna 1. Later, I'm going to talk about Baker Heating in my case study. Kizuna 2 was established in 2015. So at that time, the investment from Korea increased a lot. So from 2015, we established the Korean team to support Korean customers. So in Kizuna, we have 2 foreigners, me Japanese, and 1 more Korean native speaker. So we can support both Korean and Japanese account. So Kizuna 3, we established in 2018. The major nationality is Japan and Korea. And also the size, we have more size variety from the smaller size to the bigger size. From 2019, we have an expansion project of the Kizuna 3. We have a new product with 2-story standard workshop, also space workshop with 4-story workshop. So the tenant, the majority of the tenant is Japanese and Korean, same as the other project. Also, we have a big customer named Amphino from USA. Later, I will talk about Amphino in my case study. So right now we have 106 tenants from 15 nations. 90% is FDI. So talking about the industry, our major industry of our tenant, food and beverage, metal processing, and garment and textile. So next one is my short introduction for quick. So my name is Satoko, I'm Japanese. I'm living in Vietnam for 13 years from 2007. I'm working for Kizna is almost 8 years from 2013. So my job in Kizna is to support FDI company to be able to start operation as smooth as possible. Also, I'm associating with FDI-related organization, including NGO such as JETRO for Japanese account, also EuroCham, yeah, and also bank. So during 8 years, I supported over 120 FDI company. So it's my great pleasure to be able to attend the historical moment of investors, also support their sustainable success. So let's go to the main topic, investment in Vietnam. Talking about FDI in Vietnam, it's very special year for all over the world this year because of COVID-19. So talking about Vietnam, I think Vietnam could control the COVID situation very well. So that's the reason why we also got the international praise from many countries. But talking about the business, especially garment and textile industry was most affected. The reason why they are affected is because of the shortage of raw material from China. Also, they had many cancellation of the order. So many garment producers in Vietnam shifted their production to manufacturing face mask. Also in Kizna One, we have a Japanese garment company. They also shifted their production to making the facial mask temporary as a solution. In contrast, mobile phone production and export still up marginally, despite the Samsung expecting Vietnam export to drop 11% in this year. So because of Corona, economic growth in Vietnam expected to slow sharply in this year to 4.8%. But because of Vietnam's government control Corona situation very well, so Vietnam is one of few countries that achieve positive growth during COVID-19 pandemic. So this COVID-19 situation accelerate relocation wave from China. So before I talk about shift from China, I want to talk about China. China is a country with strong supply chain built over 20 years. They have huge network of manufacturers, suppliers, highly skilled workers, high value added and innovation-based suppliers, reliable logistic, transport, infrastructure, and utility services. Very attractive company for investors. So that's the reason why if many companies consider the relocation, they still want to keep significant part of their manufacturing in China. But China is very attractive country, but why they shift from China? There are some reasons I list up. First one is a rise in labor cost. Almost double digit, they increase the labor cost. There are 4 possible reasons of rising labor cost. First one is a working age population is estimated to be minus in the future. Also, mismatch between labor supply and demand. Also, difficulty to recruit factory worker due to popularization of higher education. So the people who have higher education, they prefer to work for office. The last reason is a limitation of labor from agricultural area. The people who have a family registration in agricultural area, they have a limitation to use the service in the city, such as medical, social insurance, education. So that's the reason why they cannot attract labor from agricultural area. They don't want to go to the city. So another reason of the shift from China is a tighter regulation for environmental issues. So from 2001, China became the world factory. Their development so fast. Also, they have a serious environmental pollution problem. So in 2015, China changed the environmental protection law, such as air pollution, industrial waste, water quality, soil regulation. So this law change causing a big influence on the manufacturer. Some company have to limit production, but some company have to stop production because of this. Also, third reason is unstable regulation on trade because of the trade war between US and China right now. The last one is the Corona this time. They gave the great impact on supply chain in China. Many companies started to think about relocation or risk aversion. But relocation is not easy. It costs a lot. They have to converting and transferring industrial plants, transferring production line. They have to send qualified workers from China into new country. It's not easy. But why Vietnam? Why not the other country? Vietnam is an ideal destination for FDI investment. I list up potential reasons. The first one is Vietnam's proximity to China, close to China. Advantageous location in the center of ASEAN. Growing skilled worker, competitive labor cost. Labor cost is still cheaper than in China. Political stability, also numerous free trade, including the EBFTA, EBIPA. So from August, the EBFTA became valid. So thanks to this free trade, it can eliminate 99% of custom duties. Also, it can increase the Vietnam GDP, also export to US, export to EU, also boost the EU's GDP. Yeah, but when FDI invests in Vietnam, is it easy or not? So I want to talk about some difficulty they face. I list up 5 difficulties. The first one is the language barrier. Vietnamese use Vietnamese. Of course, there are many people who can speak English or Japanese or Korean, but they need an interpreter to communicate together. But it often causes a misunderstanding. Second one is a culture difference, different culture, different work ethics, different daily habit, way of thinking is different. Third one is the law, unclear, frequently change, also unknown legal procedure. Legal procedure is complicated for foreigners. The fourth one is a financial difficulty. They need a huge initial investment cost for new project. The last one is the risk for investment. Of course, everybody consider the success story, but what if their business is failed? So here's my tips, how to minimize the difficulty. The first one is the language barrier. I'm Japanese living in Vietnam for 13 years, but Vietnamese is a still difficult language for foreigners to study, especially pronunciation. If we pronounce differently, the meaning will be changed. But let's try to learn easy Vietnamese. Even if it's a greeting, if you know some Vietnamese vocabulary, you can make the distance between Vietnamese staff and you shorter. You can feel closer. They feel closer to you. Also, Most of the company, they have interpreter to communicate with a foreign manager, but don't trust their understanding 100%, because sometimes it's hard for Vietnamese staff to understand the meaning behind the sentence. So my Japanese tenant often say, even if he has Japanese speaking staff, he often checks their understanding in the middle of the talk, if she really understands his talking point or not. So it's very important to check each other and adjust each other. So second one is a cultural difference. We were born in a different country with a different background, so we are very different each other. But we need to understand and accept their culture, and also don't force them to follow your culture. There's a story, for example, our Japanese customer, for example, the working starting time is from 8, but with Japanese culture, usually we come to work before 8. We prepare the working environment, clean up everything, and we start working from exactly from 8. But in Vietnam, it's different. They usually come a little bit late or start to have a breakfast. So there's a different way of thinking, different culture. So we need to explain your culture and adjust each other. So the third one is the law. It often changes. So you need a legal advice from the professional consulting firm, like Cushman & Wakefield, or law firm, or legal team of industrial park. You have to be careful for the legal update. Also, the last one is a financial difficulty, a risk for investment. When you consider the location to invest, don't focus on the only for the rental fee. We need to think about the total investment, including the infrastructure, time, and money, everything. Also, feasibility study before starting operation is very important. The Japanese customers often do the feasibility study taking 2 or 3 years, which is a little bit long. But thanks to the feasibility study, they can do the stable operation once they started operation. So feasibility study can help you to reduce the risk of investment. Also, the last one is to prepare for the worst scenario. Of course, we want to think about a successful story, but in case their business doesn't go well, how about the penalty to move out? How long does it take to close your business? The cost and time, you also need to consider. So my main topic, solution for quick, easy, efficient production. So there are many options for investor to start a business in Vietnam. For example, building a workshop by yourself, or asking outsourcing company to produce for you, or renting the factory by yourself. So my solution is a rental service factory. So we already built a workshop. Infrastructure is already completed. So supporting service is dependent on industrial park, if they have or not. And multi-language speaking staff also depend on the industrial park. And also,
yeah, this is the.
So when you compare between rental factory and building factory by yourself, I can say the 3 benefits for you to choose rental factory. The first one is a save initial investment cost, because you don't have to build a workshop from beginning. You can save the cost. The second one is that you can save the time for construction. You can start operation very fast. And that's why they reduce the investment risk. Because you use rental factory, you can move in easy and also move out easier. So using the rental factory, you can know the possibility of your business. So after 3 or 5 years, You try the Vietnamese market, you can know the direction of your business. You expand your business or you build your workshop by yourself, you can try the Vietnamese market. So these three are the advantage for you to choose rental factory. So now Kizna, we are the pioneer of service factory in Vietnam. We provide you cost saving, quick, easy, community advantage to you. So we provide efficient, secure production environment for FDI. So talking about the location, our factory is located in the border between Ho Chi Minh City and Long An province. So access to the airport, city center, residential area for foreigner, also international port, you can access within 1 hour, very convenient. Also in the future, which is under construction, we have a highway. It makes you easier to access to the international airport in the future, new airport. So you can save the transportation commuting cost. Talking about recruitment, many companies worry about the recruitment. So you can recruit white collar from Ho Chi Minh City, and blue collar from Long An province. Also, our factory is located inside of industrial park. So that's the reason why you can enjoy corporate income tax. So corporate income tax right now is at 20%. So first 2 years, tax is 0%. From third year for 4 years, the 10%. Also talking about the legal documentation compared to other province, Long An province is more flexible and easier, less document. Yeah, about factory, right now we have 3 types of workshop. The size is from 290 to 80,000 square meter. The first one is a standard workshop, 1-story workshop for any industry. The second one is a 2-story standard workshop. We built the second floor from beginning. We have cargo elevator and also staircase. Also, the unique point is the height of the ground. We raise the height of the ground 1.3 meter. So that's why easy loading and unloading. Especially for the food and beverage industry, they have to do wastewater treatment. So they can do the piping directly to the ground. Also some industry, they don't need the height of the workshop. So they can save the cost for the construction for the second floor. So the third type is space workshop, 4-story workshop. We have 2 blocks of the 4-story workshop. Total area is 80,000 square meter. Yeah. So we already installed the sprinkler system for all workshops. Also multi-layer security system. Also we're going to treat the wastewater treatment for all customers who doesn't meet the standard. Also we have a loading bay and cargo lift, which is convenient for loading and unloading. So especially this workshop is suitable for high-tech medical assembling, electronics industry, garment industry. Yeah. Our infrastructure also completed. Unique point is power supply. Because we are located in the border between Ho Chi Minh City and the Long An province, we have 2 power source from Ho Chi Minh City and Long An. So in case we have a blackout in the other area, we can shift to the other area. So we can minimize the number of blackout. Also, we have a business center in each site, Kisna 1, 2, 3. So inside of the business center, we have a lobby, also meeting room. Customer can use this area for free. So especially during the construction, they don't have any space for working. So they can use our lobby and the meeting room freely. Free Wi-Fi, free coffee, free support. Also, another unique point is a security system. Most of the industrial park, they have to recruit security staff for each company. But our case, we have a security booth in the entrance, also surrounded wall. Also, we install the security camera in front of each workshop. So no matter where you are in China or Japan or anywhere in the world, if you access to the internet, you can check the picture in front of the workshop using mobile phone, tablet, and computer. So you can save the security cost to recruit the security guard, also set up the camera security system. So another unique point about Kizuna is an easy check-in, check-out. Easy check-in is to start operation quickly. We can do the initial support, including the establishment of the local enterprise, also accounting and human resource. After we submit the document to authority, we can get the license within 15 working days, very fast. So once you decide the place to invest, you can start operation within 4 or 6 months. So within 4 or 6 months, you can establish local enterprise, you can open the bank account, you can do the decoration for the workshop, install the machine, recruit the staff, and also easy checkout. We also have a situation, the business might not go well. So in this situation, we have to think about if they can move out easier or not. So with Kizuna, we have an easy checkout system. We will support tenants to move out easier. And we will refund the deposit, also remaining rental fee. We don't have any penalty. So FDI company, they start the operation in Kizuna. After a few years, their business go well. They can expand the business inside of Kizuna. Also in the future, inside of Kizuna, they can buy out the workshop. So inside of Kizuna, they can expand the business. Also, they can own their workshop by themselves. So they don't have to lose their worker. Also, they can use the service of Kizuna. We also have a comprehensive support service like this. So the customer can focus on the production activity. They don't have to spend time for this administration or environmental things. We also have a shared event for the customer, like a firefighting or business matching or some event to hold together with the international tenant, or sometimes only for the European customer or sometimes for the Japanese customer. We can strengthen the bond of the relationship each other. So now I want to talk about the case study from my tenant. The first case study is a Baker Heating, Swedish company. So Baker Heating Technology Vietnam was established in 2016. Their parent company is Naibo Group Global Corporation. So Baker Heating Vietnam belongs to Naibo Element. So what they are doing in Vietnam is that they are producing heaters for rear view mirrors and seat heater to all main cars and heavy vehicle producers. So materials they import from Sweden, Italy, China, and Korea, and they export to North America, Europe, Japan, and South Africa. Yeah, here's the timeline. They signed this ambition with Kizuna in 2016, and they got the license in October. And after decoration for the factory in 2017, they started operation. And last year, 2019, they had a solid profit during the fiscal year of 2019. They expanded workshop 660 square meter, same space inside of Kizuna 1. Yeah. So talking about the expansion, it's also related with a relocation production from China because of the US-China trade war. So I had an interview. I asked an interview from Mr. Stefan. He's the chairman of the Baker Heat in Vietnam. So here's a comment. So why Baker decided to invest in Vietnam? So their ambition, they don't want to rely on any country, any factory for their production, for risk management. And they realized their dependence on China was too big. And also because of the rising costs in China, their competitiveness is getting weaker. So that's the reason why they decided to invest in another country. But why Vietnam? Here's attractive points for Mr. Stefan for Baker Heating. Well-educated young population, access to several ports onto the Pacific area, good air transport possibilities, decent cost level compared to China, stable government, also positive attitude towards FDI. But why they chose Kizuna? Here's a comment. Support of finished expandable factory unit, easy for expansion. We will provide you the suitable option for them to expansion. Whole service package, support with various government contact. I also got a comment from Mr. Stefan for the outlook of shift of manufacturing from China to Vietnam. So regardless of unfavorable factor of China, which I mentioned before, China is still attractive market. Huge market with large population, many good industrial suppliers. But nearly future 3-6 years, more and more international companies will stay in China, but adapt their capacity to China domestic market. So export business from China will probably be moved faster to other countries such as Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, India, Indonesia, etc. And challenge for Vietnam for next 3-6 years. Control the cost development. Labor cost in Vietnam also rising, but Vietnamese government have to control the cost very well. Otherwise, Vietnam can be the second China. Many FDI might be moved out to the other country. Also, Vietnam need an investment in infrastructure around the industrial area. Also, they need a high level of access to university educated people to find a qualified people. And also they need to encourage local company builder to start company making material for FDI coming to Vietnam, because many companies still rely on the import to purchase the raw material. So it's very important, I think. So another case study is Amphenol in Semitech. So Amphenol Technology Vietnam is a USA company who entered Kizuna in 2019. So they're making the cables and the connectors to USA. And their case, they established the company in 2019, August. But they started operation from November. Only 3 months they started operation. Very quick start. So another case is a Semitech. Semitech is Japanese company, but actual operation is by Korean. So they're making the temperature sensor. And their establishment is 2014. They started their project with 1,000 square meters in Kizuna 1. But after 2-year operation, their business went very well. So they expanded their workshop to 3,000 square meter. They relocated workshop from Kizna 1 to Kizna 2. So this is a case of business expansion. So as a conclusion, I want to mention about the outlook of FDI Vietnam in 2021. Based on the forecast, the Vietnam economy will be recovered from second half of 2020 because we could control COVID situation very well. Also in 2021, Vietnam GDP will reach up to 8%. But of course, recovery will be easily affected by factors affecting trade, tourism, foreign investment, direct investment. Also, great opportunity is for medical equipment and medicine, healthcare field, because Vietnam government is still relying on import for the medical field. So that's why it's good opportunity for FDI. But also export contribute to 80% of Vietnam GDP. Economic recovery rate also depends on the recovery of global trade. Also, as Mr. Paul already mentioned, COVID situation will accelerate greater demand for technology-enabled service like Industry 4.0. So last, I'm going to talk about our future vision. The Kizna are accompanying and developing the successful, sustainable FDI enterprise community for efficient production environment at Kizna. Also continuously improve operation, also develop supporting service of Kizna, and develop our new train, bring many outstanding value to FDI company. Also, we continue to research and develop new product with outstanding values. Yeah. So if you have any interest in the service factory, please feel free to take contact with us. Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shiravak Sotoko, for your insightful presentation. Before we continue with the Q&A section, let's take a break and let's watching a short video from our member BlueScope Lysac. I will ask our team to play it.
Mọi công trình vĩ đại đều khởi đầu từ một nền móng đầu tiên với Lysac. Nền móng ấy được tạo lập từ năm 1897 tại Úc. Lysac, chuyên gia toàn cầu, cung cấp các giải pháp ưu việt nhất trong lĩnh vực xây dựng, vượt trội so với mọi thương hiệu khác ở Việt Nam với 4 lợi thế cạnh tranh. Lysac tự hào kế thừa những di sản và lịch sử lâu đời tại Úc. Chúng tôi là doanh nghiệp đầu tiên mang đến thị trường Việt Nam công nghệ tấm lợp mái không dùng vít clip lock và tấm sàn liên hợp Bodex 2 với những ưu điểm vượt trội. Đồng thời, Lysac kết hợp với các đơn vị cung cấp thiết bị thương hiệu quốc tế để đưa ra giải pháp chuồng trại trọn gói chất lượng cao, đáp ứng nhu cầu ngày càng khắt khe về chất lượng nông nghiệp. Dẫn đầu về các tính năng như chống gió bốc, tăng cường độ chính xác và được kiểm duyệt trong phòng thí nghiệm tại Úc, Lysac đã và đang tạo ra những sản phẩm vượt trội về mọi mặt và đáp ứng mọi nhu cầu công trình.
Lysac, there is no equivalent.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to invite Mr. Paul and Ms. Satoko for a Q&A. We use it in these webinars to invite our audiences to send a message for the web chat, and I use it to quote it and pass to our speakers. However, if we don't have so far any questions raised by audience, I can start. One question for Paul. When you made mention about the production sectors in the north and in the south of Vietnam, what is the most in terms of in the north and in the south in terms of sectors, Paul?
Yeah, well, in the north we see definitely a growing attraction to towards electronics, And automotive industry is also clustering more in the north and the central at the moment. Steel, heavier industries, which is also including the packaging that is linked to the electronics that is developing there. In the south, you have the FMCG, food processing, higher tech, still a lot of mechanical engineering as well, and including automotive supply, and then also a lot of packaging. In the north, you also have a bit more on the chemicals, petrochemical, with exemption of Maria Hungtao, where you have, of course, the petrochem establishment.
Yes. This reason for the also different sectors is because infrastructure, or because they start in such a way in the north and after they pass to the south. What is the reason?
Yes, interesting question. Yeah, but you see that a lot of big OEMs, like Samsung, for example, they really tip the scale. That Samsung and LG moved to the north is also because there was the opportunity for them to discuss on a government-to-government level, have access to their incentives and a soft landing. This is a different process than our normal manufacturers, but they do bring their supply chain, and they do also eventually tip the scale. And then eventually, yes, the manufacturing also sees the infrastructure development in the north has really sped up the last few years. A lot of manufacturers that are also now, due to the increasing cost, the tariff war, and even pandemic, moving out of China, do like it better in the north. Concerning, the work ethic is similar. There is a strong link, literally infrastructure-wise, with China, and a very it's better to understand how the infrastructure is built up, with the port towards the east, the metropolitan area Hanoi towards the west, and in between you have distribution, manufacturing, e-commerce, and north and south you have the access that gives access to lower cost regions with even very good infrastructure, and also more increasingly development of ready-built facilities such as Kizuna, which is offering flexibility for a lot of investment.
I see, very interesting. I think that the investors already understand that the China plus one, that is Vietnam, is a very interesting market. And do you think that will benefit in this moment the trade role, we can say this, between between China and America? Vietnam will always benefit, even in this case, if Trump will not win the elections. In the case, means Vietnam is already well known in the industry, right?
Yes. I mean, that's true. I mean, it's not starting now. It started a few years back. I mean, when costs in China were also starting to increase, the tariff war is not a driver, but it is also a catalyst, and a pandemic as well. Most importantly, both actually put Vietnam in the spotlight, and that is also one thing you need. The next steps will be, of course, that we have to keep developing and investing in terms of infrastructure and education and productivity of the workforce as well. And yeah, that will be some of the challenges. But what I see now with the government, how well they manage the pandemic, but also how much new legislation is being implemented and promulgated at the moment, post National Congress vote, that would likely, remove some of the barriers that we have, make things process faster, and help also the development of the supporting industry, as well as the development of the Vietnamese manufacturers to actually leverage the opportunities they have with such good global market integration, including a new FTA with Europe, which is the second that Europe signed with a Southeast Asian country in the world.
Very interesting. Since we don't have so far any raised hand from our audience, I will pass to a question. We have. Trung Nguyen.
Yep. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes.
Yep. Great. It's Trung from Vinaxia, which is a recruitment expert in Vietnam. So firstly, I would like to thank you for the informative webinar. So I just have a question. With the manufacturing shift from China to Vietnam, do you think that there is a massive need in recruiting Vietnamese managers or manufacturing supervisors for firms, or they just simply reallocate the senior people to Vietnam to supervise here? Thank you.
Well, maybe Paul, you have some insight about this, this question?
Well, what I've seen so far in the past years is usually starting with management that is still from the origin of the investor, but the intention to localize it as fast as possible, because localizing the supply chain is definitely a win. And this also starts with your middle management and your management. So this is a potential for Vietnam to be able to develop our education, not only to supply the jobs, higher quality, higher salary, which leads to better consumer spending, and also more trust of investment coming here that is adopting higher technology and 4.0 solutions when they see that. I think potential for Vietnam, definitely. And especially the past few years, what I've seen so far, manufacturers that have been my clients or relations for a long time, they have localized most of their management in a very positive way, and often in a very loyal way. So the retention of the Vietnamese staff, lower, middle, and upper, is quite high in Vietnam, especially in the well-developed industrial estates that have everything integrated, offering quite a stable situation also.
I think Miss Satoko made this mention when talking about in her slide about the interview that you made for one of your tenants, right? Was the quality of the management in Vietnam as well, and the easy way in Vietnam, right? Miss Satoko, can you, your microphone is off.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about the management of the Vietnamese staff, right?
Yes, one of the plus values as well, right? Because you made mention in one of your slides.
Talking about the management of the staff, in my slide I already talked earlier, we also have to understand the Vietnamese culture and also way of the thinking or tendency. So we also need to train those management staffs to reach the level which FDI expected. So we also need a human resource company who can do the training for those staffs to meet the level of their demand.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So this is Da Nang IT Park in terms of manufacturing, moving from China to Vietnam. My question is, how about the supply chain and also the quality that we try to establish in Vietnam correctly from the very beginning, when we have a factory in Vietnam, in terms of international quality control and quality, requirement, such as IPC, ISO, and the supply chain will be along with the manufacturer, from China to Vietnam, yes or no? Because what we feel as not only just moving the manufacturing to Vietnam, but also the factory and manufacturing depend on the supply chain from China really must, almost 75% of supply chain that we need to get from China. But if we just move in the factory, it's not a 100% success. That's what we feel. Secondly, that the quality from international requirement, from ISO, from IPC standard, that's we feel that that is the witness when we get the manufacturing move into Vietnam. So that's the two areas, not in terms of management, that should be okay, but the two main area that we feel really needed is the quality and also is the supply chain. So do you have any suggestion or any idea how we face that?
Well, I invite Paul.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's a good question, and it's definitely one of the big constraints. But the importance of local suppliers and us not only importing all the parts and raw material, but also in more production and distribution and fulfillment in Vietnam is also in line with the function I can see that is, possible for Vietnam is a hub function for our whole region, for manufacturing stability, for different sectors, for food supply, and definitely also, which was proven during the pandemic, for PPE, the personal protection equipment. That's now where, pragmatically a lot of manufacturers jumped into, but I will also see more manufacturers coming to Vietnam that have been doing this professionally and investing and expanding in this sector. It also means that, in terms of local supply chain during the lockdown and still, there was a tendency of using more and more local suppliers for tier 1, tier 2, and 3. And this is positive. It gives a chance to the suppliers, also the local ones, to test the market, and also for the buyers and the bigger companies to work with them and invest vertically into the quality. I think this is something that is also now being stimulated by the government, especially with their new resolution. I hope that will work in the coming years as one thing. And it will also be stimulated by the free trade agreements that Vietnam has, especially with Europe as a good example. And the other thing is that the trend of reshoring, which is kind of a global trend now, and opposite of offshoring, could also help Vietnam because it's part of the trend that people are more willing to work with local supply chain and actually willing to invest in it. And I expect that the coming time, we see more investment of, let's say, a bit more higher value added manufacturing and advanced manufacturing as well, which is probably also what you're will target in Da Nang IT Park. And these investors, they have the tendency to transfer more of their technology and their knowledge into the supply chain, as it's a win-win and a return on investment in the end. Because now they can still benefit from the lower cost of investment, the ease of doing business, and developing and educating and training their staff at the same time, while developing the supply chain and moving up the value chain in their production and bringing more and more value added and technology to Vietnam. So it is not step 1, but it will be step 2, step 3. And it's a good approach, and I see many manufacturers already doing that for years. And I think this is the time to really start leveraging that in a much faster pace at the moment.
So you mean that we should focus on the 2 foundations, that's the supply chain and also the quality at first before we can attract all the customer overseas to the park in terms of the building the manufacturer or building the factory in the park. So we have that 2 area that I feel is a weakness. So we need to make sure the foundation is go first before the manufacturer go after. That's what I think. Because right now, if we have the order, we have the investment, whoever, let's say Apple or Samsung from US, they want to build. We are a high-tech park. We want to build an iPhone or build a Samsung phone in Vietnam, in the center of Da Nang IT Park. So we're looking for the quality and also the foundation of the supply chain in order to move their product line to Vietnam. The factory is not a big major concern, but that's the 2 areas that I feel that we need to bring it up and discuss more in the future. Because moving the factory is very easy. We have the land, we have everything, but supply chain and quality, in play, that is the most complicated part that attract to the customer. So I think we should discuss more about this issue.
Yeah, well, moving the factory is not that easy. That is actually because of supply chain issues. But as you can see, and you mentioned Samsung, which is a nice example. I mean, they invested what, about 18 billion in Vietnam already. What they're doing now is their big research and development center, and they're actually starting to train and invest in the supply chain, local supply chain in Vietnam, and develop at least their tier 2 and 3 suppliers locally. And this is only Samsung, and I expect this not to be, this will be the trend.
Right,
usually
but the Samsung, I'm sorry, the Samsung is really a government.
R&D and
the Samsung and the Apple is really a government level. You know, we're trying to become, you know, it's not related to the government. It's a big project like Samsung and Apple. You know, the government, the big support and supply chain is in play. Everything is in play. But I'm talking about a mid company. You know, those like, you know, under $1 billion company revenue trying to move to Vietnam. It's not like Samsung. Samsung is big company in Apple. Big company, you do have supply chain and government support 100%. But in terms of getting the customer who have under $1 billion revenue going to Vietnam, that is when you're looking for a supply chain and you're looking for quality. Before you decide, you know, to move the factory from China to Vietnam. So no difficulty that we see it every single day here.
Yeah, but I mean, you're right. But it's also a role as a developer you can support by, you know, planning clusters, by implementing also and offering research and development facilities. And something that you see like Kizuna is doing as well. It is part of it. And they're also developing and changing their concept along with the trend. And this is also bringing in this type of supply chain that we are looking for. Like Naibe is basically also supporting industry, in this case, important for Vietnam. So these smaller facilities and ready-built factories that will become a big trend in Vietnam will actually offer the solutions for the supply chain and the supporting industries. Like you said, they're much smaller. They're not Samsung, but also on the other hand, the OEMs that are here and that are coming, you see a lot of big land leases were signed also in Haiphong with Pegatron and USI. These are big investments, all electronics, and for sure they will bring their investment. They will sure to bring their supply chain. Sorry. And those supply chain is generally more value added and developed than what the OEM is doing. Same for Samsung. Needs more technology, needs more skilled labor. And that means, you know, these two are going to work together and invest in each other.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Because we are running out of time.
Right. I'm sorry, my last question is, Paul is right. The difficulty for the electronic company and high-tech company is the component. As you know, Vietnam, there are no component manufacturer in Vietnam. And really, everything is really depend on China and Taiwan or Japan. So getting the component is a very, very big, you know, concern, you know, for the manufacturer of high-tech company, or for manufacturing production. So that I think that's a big issue when people decide moving the manufacturing to Vietnam.
Yeah, that's true. I hope that the resolution 115 of the government will also contribute to the development of this supporting industry, especially for component as one of the highlighted sectors. But often there are still also other hurdles in the way to, you know, develop these resolutions. Sometimes it's, you know, easier said than done. Sometimes there is environmental regulations that stand in the way because the technologies are not really acknowledged and explained well to the other authorities that license. So there, you know, it's always easier said than done. But I think this is the time, especially while we're still locked in, also a good opportunity for the local supply chain.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. Thank Ms. Satoko to share all these so grateful insights from both sides in terms of the market overview and your case, Ms. Satoko, about the case studies about some companies all established in Vietnam. We also like to say thank you very much to our sponsor, Blue Scope Lightsite, to their support. And last but not least, thank you all of our participants. Thank you for your time and efforts on EuroCham Today event. Kindly stay updated with our information on email and website about the upcoming event of EuroCham. We're going to only streaming one more video from our sponsor, and have a good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mọi công trình vĩ đại đều khởi đầu từ một nền móng đầu tiên với LiSat. Nền móng ấy được tạo lập từ năm 1897 tại Úc. LiSat, chuyên gia toàn cầu, cung cấp các giải pháp ưu việt nhất trong lĩnh vực xây dựng, vượt trội so với mọi thương hiệu khác ở Việt Nam với 4 lợi thế cạnh tranh. LiSat tự hào kế thừa những di sản và lịch sử lâu đời tại Úc. Chúng tôi là doanh nghiệp đầu tiên mang đến thị trường Việt Nam công nghệ tấm lợp mái không dùng vít clip lock và tấm sàn liên hợp Bodex 2 với những ưu điểm vượt trội. Đồng thời, LiSat kết hợp với các đơn vị cung cấp thiết bị thương hiệu quốc tế để đưa ra giải pháp chuồng trại trọn gói chất lượng cao, đáp ứng nhu cầu ngày càng khắt khe về chất lượng nông nghiệp. Dẫn đầu về các tính năng như chống gió bốc, tăng cường độ chính xác và được kiểm duyệt trong phòng thí nghiệm tại Úc, LiSat đã và đang tạo ra những sản phẩm vượt trội về mọi mặt và đáp ứng mọi nhu cầu công trình.
LiSat, there is no equivalent.